Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 401. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm always joined by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot Segulin, and the Duke of You Know. On this episode, we are going to be taking a look at the recent events in Batgirl with Batgirl number 33. We're also going to be taking a heavy look at the one-shot Batman Robin Rises number 1 that's kicking off the brand new story arc from Peter Tomasi. So it's a great story, and it's something we were really excited to talk about because Jim and I are both big Damian fans, so it's a great issue to kind of kick off that story arc. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network, the League of Comic Book Podcasts, and the DCinfinite.com podcast partnership. Sponsoring us this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, I am a big fan of whenever there's creative team changes or new titles being launched, DCBService.com always does a great job on the pre-orders of making it easy financially to jump onto books. This is a deal that you're going to want to check out. It's Batgirl number 35 with the brand new creative team and Deathstroke number 1. Each of those books are 65% off. Just to give you an idea what that means each of those issues is $1.04. So if you were considering trying either of those books, you can try them out for a little over $1 a piece from DCBService.com. Be sure to check out every month the deals they're running. And when you click on their website, there's a great banner along the top. They always discount everything on the site, but those are always the special deals. There's bundles where if you bundle certain books or certain book families together, they offer special discounts on those. So be sure to check those things out. And if there's something that you're looking for, have been wanting to try, this is the way to do it. So check out our sponsor, DCBService.com, for your pre-order needs. Remember, they're a digital partner. If you're doing any Comixology shopping or MyDigitalComics.com shopping, link those accounts. 5% of those purchases go towards your DCB service order, so you're saving even more money for purchases you're already making. Head over to our website, RagingBullets.com, click on the handy-dandy link, and head over to DCBService.com. Over at InStockTrades.com, they are doing this moving sale. They're taking their warehouse and they're moving it over to a place that's closer to their distributor in order to cut down on their reorder times. So it'll be better for us as consumers being able to access things quicker. Because of that, though, they are running extra discounts on various hardcovers and soft covers from a variety of different companies. So head over to InStockTrades.com, click on the moving sale. It looks like it's going to end around August 18th. So when you get this, go check right away and see if any of the books that you're looking at, they already have amazing discounts, but these are extra discounts on top of that to sell down some of their stock. So see if you can benefit of that. And remember, orders of $50 or more give you free shipping from InStockTrades.com. James, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in depth into plot lines, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on the show. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's talk some comics.
Spinning with great speed, the Flash creates a protective vacuum around himself.
Jim, I want to shout out a book real quick. I'm actually in the middle of reading it. Right before we started recording this episode, I started reading the Harley Quinn Invades Comic-Con issue that's out there. I don't know if you got this one. It was a one-shot that came out this week. I totally forgot this was coming out, and I just ended up grabbing it and I started reading it. It's a lot of fun. It's one of those things where Harley Quinn breaks that fourth wall, and there's times where she's talking to the audience. It's not overdone. It just happens at a couple of spots so far that are really funny. It's Harley Quinn from the New 52, so it's totally her. She's going to Comic-Con to promote her own comic. It leads to the kind of hilarity that you would expect. It's totally written in continuity. It's the current creative team with guest artists that are on there. Nice. So it's from the current Harley Quinn book. So if you're reading that book and really enjoying it, you need to pick this up because this is a part of her. It's not one of those one-shots where it's like it has no connection to the current book. It feels like it's a part of it. So it's a very special episode of Harley Quinn. But for me, I really enjoyed it because we're in Comic-Con season. It's great to see her touching on all of the things that we know happen at the conventions. It's very endearing in its approach. So I just wanted to shout it out because I do think sometimes one-shots like that are things that people will miss. The beauty of it is, whether you're reading Harley Quinn or not, it's a one-shot. It's completely self-contained. It's a lot of fun. I love con season. I love cons. You know, it's lately in recent years, just because of my own work schedule, I've unfortunately been only able to hit the local ones. I'm thrilled to death that Cleveland's getting a Wizard Con because I'm going to go to the Columbus one in the fall like I always do, but we're going to actually have one in Cleveland this coming February, I believe it is. So I'm excited for that because I love cons. I love going there. I love immersing myself in the experience. I love seeing the people in their costumes. I've never done the cosplay thing, and I don't mean that in any way. Sometimes when people say that, it's kind of snooty, like, I don't do cosplay. It's not that. I am not brave enough. It's really the honest reality. And I also don't have the talent, because I marvel at the people. There's people that will come there with homemade costumes that are spectacular, and I have no skill set at all that relates to that. But there's also a bravery issue. I am not brave enough to wear some of the costumes that people do, and I marvel at the comfort level that people have putting on the character and just really embracing the experience at cons. To me, it adds to the atmosphere. You know, if you go to a con and you don't see a bunch of people in costumes, you're missing. There's something missing.
Something
there.
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the whole experience, meeting creators. Now it's, there's obviously actors always there as well. There's dealers selling comics. I love going through the bins. I love seeing the toys and statues and things there. There's something at a con for everybody. So, it's not just about comics. And there's a negative to that in the sense that we want the comic focus because I want it out there. But the positive is it's also a great family experience. There's something there for everybody. So I encourage you, if you've never been to a con before and you're like, I can't find anyone to go with, take your family there. Take friends there that you think normally wouldn't like that kind of thing. There's something at a comic convention now for everybody in the way that they're structured. So it's a great opportunity to really enjoy that experience with others. And I encourage you to go see all the people that you want to see the comic creators that you want to see, get embraced in that environment. But don't be afraid that you're going to take people who aren't going to have fun because maybe they're not into that. There's a lot to do for everybody. So I encourage you to, bite the bullet and go because it's a great experience. And this Harlequin thing just made me want to shout that whole out because it embraces everything that I think is really great about cons in a wacky way that only Harley Quinn can. It's just a great one-shot. Did you end up picking that one up?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's one I recommend that I'm assuming you probably didn't have a chance to read it because I know you just got your box. But I encourage you after this episode to jump to it because I'm halfway through it right now and adoring every minute of it. I'm partway. I literally stopped right before we were going to record, and I'm like, "Oh wait, I got to record." But that to me is a great comic when you all of a sudden just want to talk about it really quick because of it, and that's one of those books. That being said, the book I really want to talk about right now is this Robin Rises Omega. And Jim, can you tell us a little bit about who is behind this?
Well, the writer is Peter J. Tomasi, pencils by Andy Kubert, with inks by Jonathan Galapian, with colors by Brad Anderson. The letterer is Nick J. Napolitano, assistant editor Matt Humphreys, group editor is Rachel Gluckstern, group editor Mark Doyle, and of course, Batman was created by Bob Kane.
Now, this was one I called you when I realized this was out, and I knew our own love for the whole Damian storyline. It's funny how, the character died in Batman Incorporated. What was so powerful about that was not only his role in Morrison's Batman run, but I think Peter J. Tomasi has done this amazing job of taking the character concept and kicking it up to 11. It's a book, we talk about this on the show many times, where when we were talking about the great events that happened in Scott Snyder's Batman, I don't mention enough how good Batman and Robin is, or Batman and whoever his guest star is. Now, Peter Tomasi is an unsung hero in the Batman universe, and that's one of the great things about reading the Batman books right now, is the fact that you've got the amazing delivery of Scott Snyder going on. You've got the amazing delivery of Peter J. Tomasi going on right now. And it is a book that I want us to shout out more because I want the DC offices to be well aware of the fact that they have got a gem in Peter Tomasi writing on these books because it's such a great experience. I'm a huge Batman fan, to me, the best Batman stories are not about it just being Batman. It's about having great creators who play around with the concepts and challenge your thinking about the concepts of Batman. Over the years, there have been amazing creators that have touched on Batman. It's why there's such an endearment to the character. It's not enough to just say, well, Batman's the most popular. Well, you got to ask why. Why is he one of the most popular characters in comics? It's because of the top-tier creators that have touched on his world. And Peter Tomasi is going to go down as being one of the sleeper hits, I think, of the Batman universe, only in the sense that you don't hear his name mentioned in the same light of some of the, Grant Morrison and Scott Snyder. The Grant Morrison and Scott Snyder deserve all those accolades. I'm not diminishing them. What I'm doing is complimenting the work of Peter Tomasi and saying his name needs to be up there. And should be up there because it's top-tier talent like this that make the characters so intriguing, that challenge us. This story challenges your perceptions of Batman, challenges and expands on things like the Lazarus Pits. Before the Lazarus Pits were a foil to bring back Ra's al Ghul. That was really what that whole thing was about. It was, Batman would defeat this guy, and it seemed like we were done with Ra's al Ghul. All of a sudden, Ra's al Ghul finds a way to come back, and it's all due to some Lazarus pit that he manages to find his way to. Damian's been dead now for almost a year. Ra's al Ghul is scrambling to resurrect his grandson. Bruce has had his own issues with that because Ra's wants to bring him back as a mindless drone that he can now, from start to finish, rebuild. He wants to do the same thing with Talia, basically erasing the whole Leviathan thing. This is going to be a very interesting experience to see how this all plays out.
Oh, God, yeah. This has been just going through the Batman and Robin series and just as it's building. When we initially had the death of Damian, we were sitting there and I was grieving the little monster because I absolutely loved the character. And I loved what was laid out, how he developed into a character. And I even remember talking about how I wanted to see Damian outside of the cape and cowl. I wanted to see Damian on his first date, Damian interacting with regular people. Just the way, especially the way he was being crafted in all the different titles. And I was very leery on how I'm bringing him back because as much as I love the character, I wanted it to be something epic. I wanted it to be something worthy of this amazing character, and we are getting that in this journey. Because, throughout the title, initially it was about Bruce Wayne's grief and him dealing with the loss of his son, and now it's him moving on. And then Ra's al Ghul steps in and steals the body and just everything chugging along, where he's getting guest stars who are outside of the Bat universe in with this fight. And I tell you, this has been just some absolutely beautifully written Batman stories, but also all the supporting casts. The multiple appearances of Frankenstein. First time the grieving Batman deals with Frankenstein, where he tries to dissect him and figure out what makes him tick. And then the second part where we actually get Batman apologizing.
Yes.
Bruce Wayne actually apologized to Frankenstein, saying, I was wrong. I apologize. And I thought that for, one, it completely fit the story. It completely forget Frank wanting that apology, but also why Bruce had to give it to him. And I thought it was just one of those, moments I was like, whoa, that is awesome. Just because they so understood who Frankenstein is and what he's about. Naturally, he's going to help Batman because this monster is trying to bring back, Batman's son. So naturally, he's going to step up. But before that's done, there's some protocol that has to be done here. This is about honor. This is about integrity. Bruce needed to apologize, and he did. And it was, again, perfect, placement for those two characters. Beautiful writing for those two characters. Then right into the action.
Can I say one thing, because I know you want to jump right into the action, and you should. Just so hold that thought for 1 second, please, because I want to comment on Frankenstein real quick.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Building off of what you're saying, because I think you are on such a great tangent there. One of the things I really loved about Peter Tomasi's writing of the Frankenstein sequence, I was a fan of the Frankenstein series. It was great to get to know the character that way. I like how Frankenstein said to Batman, do you want your son to come back like me? Because I wouldn't wish that on him. And I'm paraphrasing poorly there, but it's that concept of, look at what I am. And that was Frankenstein's point of contention. One of the great things about this journey has been, you've got this grieving father who, it's Batman. he's already broken in the sense of how family works and what the right protocol should be, because he has gone through this amazing trauma of losing his family. He hasn't dealt with loss in the way that a normal person would when it comes to someone this close. So this is his first experience with that, where the relationship was there. It's his son now. It's in many ways, I don't know if you want to say more tragic than his parents, but equally tragic in the sense it's almost the reverse role. His son died very similarly to the timing of when his parents died for him, except in reverse. Now he's the dad grieving his kid. I don't know if there's anything as deep as that. We're seeing it actually in Earth 2 with Thomas Wayne being alive over there and his son dead. It's interesting to see that kind of reverse dynamic happening over there. So I really liked that deep exploration with Frankenstein because it was very true to the Frankenstein that I was reading. And that's one of the key developments of the New 52 is I think they've done a great job of developing the character. Frankenstein is he's on my short list of really cool characters that have come out of the New 52. I've really enjoyed his character development.
Oh God, yeah. This is it's funny because, as I said, they did wonderful cast, wonderful writing with him in the two experiences, but also just everybody else that we've had these guest spots on there. Wonder Woman's sequence was wonderful. The Aquaman sequence was absolutely just amazing.
Yeah.
We've leading to this point, and even just these last couple with Ra's al Ghul, just again the obsessed, the monster that is Ra's al Ghul. But there is kind of a reasoning, kind of a code behind it, but there's still just that dark side of it where it's not about bringing back his grandson or bringing back his daughter. It's about bringing them back as a clean slate so he can perfectly mold them to conquer the world or to do whatever it is Ra's al Ghul, his end game that he wants in his mind. I still thinking we don't know everything that Ra's is planning because that's just the way Ra's is. You never know exactly what he's going to do next. But I love the fact that, Ra's has this quote-unquote higher, nobler purpose to what he's doing, even though it's still a monster.
Yeah, he's the selfish nature of what he's doing here, because when you mind wipe somebody, that means you don't really love and respect them. You love and respect what you want them to be. There's a huge distinction there. Whatever his higher purpose is, it's really, really clear that Raish is out for Raish. And he's funny. It's you call him Raz, I call him Raish. I don't know what the correct pronunciation is because I've heard it both ways. I know that Raish was one of the ones that Denny O'Neil threw out. He found out years later that it actually should be Raish. I interchange them constantly because of the fact that I grew up with him being Raz. So it's one of those that I would just say go with the fact because I know I interchange him. I adore that character, though, because of the complications of him. As I do think there is a part of him that does love Talia and Damien, but his quest for his goals start to overshadow, I should say, any love that he has, especially when you hear of him wanting things like this.
Well, immortality can tend to make you crazy. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, one, the chemical dips in the Lazarus pit, just the long life, everything he's led to him, there's a craziness to him. Now, to say crazy, it's thinking beyond the norm. Thinking beyond what is actually accepted within society. It's that type of mindset. I'm not thinking crazy as in goofy, wacky person, because that's not Ra's al Ghul. It's, he is the demon head. He's going to look at life a little bit differently than the rest of us. And I think that is one of the things that makes him such a great Batman villain. That he has this intellect, he has this cunning, he has this strategery to him that would make it, him worthy, foe for Batman.
Well, the hard part about Ra's al Ghul, and one of the reasons why I have issues with him, I agree with everything you just said. I think part of the problem with him is where he gets eccentric and misguided and maniacal is the fact that he's been an immortal. He's been around forever. Vandal Savage has the same issues in a different way. And I like the fact that they're not cookie-cutter immortals. Vandal Savage is different than Ra's al Ghul, but there are similarities between them. Both are people, and Ra's al Ghul's very guilty of this, thinking he's above society. He knows what's better for society than society does. And if society can't get it right, he has a right to wipe it out to build a better society. He thinks that's one of his charges. He thinks he's doing things that are noble. There comes a point in time where you get so caught up in what you think is right that you are blinded to what is right. And that's Ra's al Ghul. He's so out of touch. I don't know that he will ever have the ability to bring him. He's in the clouds. His head's in the clouds. And when your head gets there, some people can be dragged back down to earth and reality again. Other people are stuck there. Ra's is stuck there.
Yeah.
He will never see things. Your comments about him being very intelligent and there being a strategy to what he does is 100% correct. I agree with everything you're saying. That's one of the interesting things about the character is it's everything you said and so much more. It's what makes him an enigma. It makes him an interesting Batman character. He's one of the short list of Batman characters, such as the Joker, the Penguin. You know, they're the ones that you kind of go to and go, wow. The Riddler, I think, has throughout the years had wonderful experiences, but I think even more so now is being developed as a character that's on this level. Bane came in like a storm, and I think Bane from time to time has been a roller coaster ride, people understanding him and not understanding him, but when he's understood, he's on this level. There are some really, really interesting Batman villains that I think, and Talia, I would argue that Talia in and of herself, Talia is unique and interesting because of the fact that she's a part of this world and has become a great experience through it.
Yeah. I love this opening sequence they did where it basically gives us a flashback on everything that is the Batman-Damian relationship from his conception, quote-unquote, because it's a test tube, sort of, but through death and present day. And I thought that was a great way to put it in. There were a couple pages in there. One, just getting everyone up to speed on what exactly has happened. Where is, what stories are canon, what stories aren't, where is, Dick Grayson relationship to Damian. Yes, it's there. There's the Bruce relationship. There's the recent stuff from New 52. There's everything that's gone through, pre-New 52, post-New 52. It's all come together here. And I thought that was a great way to open up this issue, especially if you haven't been getting everything, if you haven't been getting Batman and Robin series, this right here bring you right up to speed what's going on and going forward.
Yeah, I love that. And I echoing what you're saying and building on it, the art team. You've got wonderful pencils by Andy Kubert, the inks by Jonathan Glapion, and the colors by Brad Anderson. I mean, these sequences are works of art because they're taking historically gorgeous sequences. You're channeling some Neil Adams in the beginning, which to me it's just some classic material, but doing their own take on it, their own flair on it. The coloring, I think the coloring filters used, for using like a film term, that were used in that whole sequence to show those flashbacks building us to present day, I just think was gorgeous. I would easily recommend this to anyone going, I haven't been reading Batman. I've been wanting to jump on board with a story. I want to know a little bit more about Damian and the relationship. I would have no problem telling people to pick up this one shot to get kind of a primer for what the story is. You would use this then to gradually pick up trades that interest you on catching some of the backstory. But it's a great way to just kind of, like you said, bring you right up to speed on where we are now. Because when we hit that sequence with Glorious Godfrey there, you basically know what's going on. You know enough. You got enough of the basic details to just get you going on what's going on in Batman's quest for his son.
Oh, God, yeah. It was absolutely, as I said, and I love the fact that you did talk about how the appearance changes from the flashback to the present, because that is in itself was a great, just a great art decision to, one, put the the washing, the color washing or whatever the term is for the back stuff, and then once we get to that, the present day, what's currently going on, boom, double page, really cool spread, heroes, well, quote-unquote heroes, because you do have Ra's and his crew on one side. You got the apocalyptic people on the other side. So you got your definite line in the snow, shall we say. But I did really love just how, bam, it opens up and we get right into the action. This is a book that from beginning to end pretty much is nonstop action. I thought that was a great way to go with the beginning of the Return of Robin.
The Shard, that is the quest for this, leading to an apocalypse twist with this. I didn't see that coming, but it makes sense that this is now going to be a piece of all this. And taking this quest to now a different level, it's made me more and more want only one ending from this.
Yeah.
I want Damian back. I do not want any other ending. I don't want to, not to say that would be anger or anything if it doesn't go that way. But if I had a set answer on what I want out of this, I want Batman to win. I want him to come back with Damian, and I want him to come back with Damian alive. That last page, I know I'm jumping to it right now, and we'll get to the events leading to it. Him pointing at that saying, I'm going to Apocalypse, and I'm bringing back my son alive, that bit, I was like, you better, and I'm with you.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Right there, that'd be a moment. I'm in. Okay,
Yeah.
Let's do it. I'm with Batman on this one. Granted, the odds of survivability are slim and none. This is what you would call a suicide mission. Mm-hmm. But just the look on his face right then and there, I'm like, you know what? This is one of those moments where you got to step up and say, let's do this. Let's take the fight to them. I'm in.
I like them gradually bringing more and more of the New Gods mythos into DC. Glorious Godfrey being brought in, but it's been recently announced that they are going to be doing a Green Lantern crossover, which is going to be all of the Green Lantern-related books with the New Gods. There is going to be the source wall that has been featured in Green Lantern New Guardians is going to be leading to a major event in the Green Lantern books, bringing in the New Gods. There's going to be a one-shot that leads into a crossover in all those books. I'm excited for that because they have been teasing us into the New Gods with Orion and Highfather and stuff like that appearing in Wonder Woman, Glorious Godfrey appearing here. Obviously, Darkseid appearing in Justice League since the beginning. This idea of gradually building Scott Free, actually, in Earth 2, and, the Earth 2 battles with the New God situation, I think has just been a great way to get us excited for the new 52 version of these characters, which are very reminiscent of what we know and love about the New Gods. It's really interesting stuff. I'm excited. I don't know what your experience is as far as being a fan or not a fan or kind of in the middle when it comes to New Gods. Where have you been with relation to your thoughts about them, and where are you at now?
I'm very sporadic when it comes to the New Gods. Before we started doing anything with the show, I didn't even really know who or what they were. I had I think I'd seen Apocalypse maybe once on a cartoon somewhere or something like that, but it was like Justice League Unlimited or one of those cartoons. I saw him, so I vaguely, barely even had a blip of him or the New Gods. So as stories come out with him, I pick them up, I read them, I'm like, oh, okay. But I'm not really, I'll catch I get caught in the moment of the story. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like seeing some of the sick stuff they've done with the Sod over time, with the death of Batman, everything that happened there, all of that usage of the New Gods and just the obey and the mind controls, et cetera, that we've over time. I'm like, there's some cool stuff that can be told, but to say, am I a fan of the New Gods? No, I'm a fan of the current story of them being told. I don't have a passion and a fire for the New Gods like I have for Superman, or like I have for the Robins, or like even Batman. It's an acceptance, enjoyment. I get some really great stories when the right people are writing them, so I'm happy with that. But I wouldn't say I am a fan or passionate about them. I'm glad to see them in. This should be an interesting story because they're interesting characters, and if they're used correctly, and we're seeing an amazing creative team working with them. So going forward, anything Tomasi's name on it is going to be awesome in my book. I know it's going to be. I've got confidence in his skills. So him writing the New Gods, I'm excited to see where this goes.
I've been a big fan of them since I read the Kirby Fourth World Omnibuses. That's really where my love for them came from. Before that, I was kind of where you're at, in the sense that I enjoyed them as guest stars. My first experience is going back to a JLA, JSA crossover that George Perez did most of the artwork on. And I got to see them go, actually, to After Darkseid. And it was really a lot of colorful characters from JSA, JLA, also the New Gods characters being brought in. I got to see Mr. Miracle with Batman, all that kind of stuff teamed up. It was just a great crossover. But I didn't get to know them beyond that because of the fact that my reading didn't take me into encounters with them very often. When I finally got a chance, when they collected those volumes, those wonderful volumes, those Fourth World Omnibuses, I read them all from cover to cover. Actually, before that, I'd read Seven Soldiers, and that was more of my exposure to Grant Morrison's take on a lot of that concept. I really got into the head of what Kirby was going to be doing in those omnibuses, and I really enjoy the characters. Enter the New 52. It's funny how in the New 52 they really relaunched the concept of the New Gods, in the sense that they've taken Orion and modernized him in Wonder Woman, but at the same time, it is the classic Orion. They've kept him at the core who he is. High Father, the same thing. Godfrey, they're doing it here. You mentioned Desaad. I keep forgetting the wonderful Desaad bits that were happening in World's Finest. Levitz, I thought, did an amazing job with Desaad over there. There's some really cool things going on in DC right now with bringing the New Gods concepts gradually into the New 52. For me, that's just gotten me really excited for them. Have they benefited for you in their introductions in the New 52, or are you kind of still, it sounds like you're kind of still in the same place, but am I being accurate there, or?
Oh yeah. I'm still in the same place where I am, and it's not even a negative thing against them. It's just, I don't have the passion behind the character. I enjoy the characters, but I don't have that fire and passion that I have for other characters. And I don't know if it's because there's not ongoing, I'm not reading ongoing stuff and I don't get constant exposure, or if it's just the characters themselves. I don't know. They're cool characters. I enjoy seeing them in the stories, and if they were to launch a monthly series, depending on creative team, I probably would pick it up and see what happens with it. But I'm not like, as I said, I wouldn't call myself a fan of them, but I wouldn't call myself like anti them.
Uh-huh. I remember Legends. There was a DC miniseries called Legends that Godfrey was doing a smear campaign against superheroes, and they had to come together. And this was back when post Crisis on Infinite Earths, they were relaunching their universe, sort of, putting quotes around that. And Godfrey was really a catalyst that ended up bringing a lot of the heroes together. I've got a history with these characters in certain stories, and I think maybe it is our different reading experiences, different exposure to the characters that drives that. This bit, I was totally excited to see him, because I think because I also didn't see it coming. This is definitely a creepy version of Godfrey that we're seeing introduced here. But his quest is still, it's for Darkseid. The whole point is to get this shard back, this shard for power, for Darkseid. It's all about this quest for power. The idea that the shard happens to be, a bit of the shard happens to be within Damian is irrelevant to Desaad. I mean, not to Desaad, I'm sorry, Glorious Godfrey, I should say, in bringing it back to Darkseid. He doesn't care. It's a piece. I need that shard. I need all of it. Not just this long shard that I've gotten, but the little piece that's in Damian that was a part of accelerating his growth. Are you worried at all that Damian's going to come back without his memory?
Yes, I am worried about that, but I'm also confident that even if that happens, Bruce will be able to. Something will happen. Bruce will. It'll be inside Damian, and it'll be a path to bring back the Damian that we've known. I don't think they're going to use this as an excuse to bring back the body and have a whole brand new character. I think that would be. They would be losing something if they tried that. I can't see them doing that. But I think it's going to be a path. It's going to be a journey for Damian to return. There's going to be, Robin's going to come back, but then it's going to take time for Damian Wayne to come back. And I think that's going to be part of the story being told.
Am I the only one that wants to see Titus go to Apocalypse with Batman?
Oh, God. Titus is awesome, man.
That was so awesome. Like, I love the name Titus, because Titus is, basically the Ace the Bad Hound archetype.
Yep.
And, a new version of that. I never thought I'd be saying a couple years ago that, wow, I'd really like to see Batman fighting with a dog next to him. That's phenomenal. It was so great.
Throughout this whole quest that Bruce has been on, Titus has been with him. And I love the fact that the first time he went into the plane, Titus is just sitting there waiting for him. And you kind of get that moment like, how did the dog get in the plane? Okay. And you just go, he should be there. That's Damian's dog. That's, I can understand that. And again, through Bruce's grief, Titus was there for Bruce's grief. That, some of those images where he was just sitting at Bruce's feet, and they're both, depressed at the loss of Damian. I thought Titus has been a great piece throughout this, especially with, we mentioned before, the Frankenstein bits, where he's like, 2 things. I want an apology, and 2, I want your dog to stop biting my leg. That was a great moment.
The Chaos Shard, when Batman grabs that and sees... I like the tie to Superman Batman. Or Batman Superman, I should say. To that storyline where, their minds were wiped. Now he's starting to remember that because of touching the shard and realizing, wait, Damian played a part in saving us all. This is going to be something that, he has to live. This opens up the doorway again for, the dad to say, hey, wait a minute. There is a path. There is a possibility that I can bring back my son. Then that's what's going to happen. I love that. There was something infectious about the way that part played in for me. And you know what? You know why it's more powerful? Because of the length of the journey. When you have a creator on a book for a long time, and they have an opportunity to tell a long-form story, this is why Scott Snyder's work on Batman is so applauded. This is why Grant Morrison's work is so applauded. Peter Tomasi's work, it's why I applaud it. Peter Tomasi's had the opportunity in this book to really tell a long-form tone, or deliver it. And that's why I jump back for a second there as far as story. He's told many stories in this book, but he's delivered a tone, a sense of relationships in this book in a way that I don't think we've ever seen Batman relationships explored with this kind of consistent depth. We've seen it before. Great creators have tackled these topics, sure, but not with the opportunity in a title to be able to really focus so heavily on relationships and what they're like for Batman. That's one of the key strengths with Tomasi. It's the interpersonal relationships here that we've gotten to know in this book. That's why this matters. And that sequence, in isolation, doesn't mean anything. When you tie it in with everything else, and the fact that this guy's playing around with the current DC continuity in this, bringing it into the sequence, brilliant stuff.
Oh, God, yeah. And I tell you, the one thing I really liked, the fact that Batman called for backup, because he threw out the call to the Justice League, and just their appearance right at the end. That, for me, was, again, wonderful writing, just great usage of all the elements of Batman, all the elements that is Bruce Wayne. He's not just going to try to take down Ra's al Ghul alone or take down Godfrey alone. He is going to call for backup, and it was a great move on his part, but it also kind of messed some stuff up in the end.
Yeah, it certainly did.
Shazam. Oh, the kid meant well. The kid meant well, but he just messed up there. And I thought that, again, was a really cool moment showing his youth. His youthful exuberance is what cost, Batman to lose the ultimate prize. They actually were able to take Damian with them because Shazam didn't know what he was doing. He thought he's saving Batman. He thought, oh, Batman's going to get pulled into his vortex. I will cut the line and save the day. No, that was Bruce who shot the line and wanted to go in there with them.
But one of the great things about that sequence is I think that was twofold. When he starts hitting Shazam, agreeing with everything you're saying, but there's a twofold to that. I think Bruce has had so much pent-up frustration. So many things he's had to unleash. That gave him an opportunity, because it was Shazam, to just let go. And I think he needed that in that moment. And it had less to do with what Billy did and more to do with everything leading up to it for him in this quest. I don't know that he would have been able to get to the place he got to at the end of this issue if he didn't have that sequence with Billy. Sometimes you got to tell somebody, hey, dude, go run around the block. I mean, that was his running around the block. You got to let out that energy, because if you don't let out that energy, it's going to eat you alive. I absolutely adored how that whole sequence played out, because I just thought it was really brilliant.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see what's going to happen between Bruce and Shazam. Because Shazam's a kid. How is he going to react and deal with Batman? Because we already see him kind of in that sequence where he's like, I figured I was doing you a favor, and you could just see, the kid in him saying, "What I do wrong?" And down the line, are we going to have an issue between the two of them? Will Bruce actually sit him down and say, "Hey, here's what's going on"? But Bruce doesn't know; he's just a little kid. So if Bruce knew that it was just a little boy, he would maybe tell him something different.
Here's where I'm actually going to not defend Billy. Everything you're saying is brilliant, and I agree with you, but here's the problem. Billy is not just a kid. And let me clarify that. I'm not talking about because he changes into Shazam. I'm talking about sometimes children are unfortunately forced to grow up too soon. Billy's been forced to do that living on the streets. He's very worldly. And I think to a certain extent that makes Billy the perfect candidate to be Shazam, because of the fact that he's seen the injustices of the world. He kind of gets it. He's one of the guys you can go, he's seen rough things happen to families. He's been a victim of it. I think he's one of those guys where you can tell him and he's just going to get it. Yeah. I really do think that Billy's going to get it. And I think that's one of the things that's great about the Shazam story is that in that moment, I think Billy will just get it. I really do. I don't think it's going to be an issue between the two of them. I think under every other circumstance you were mentioning, if it was a normal kid who maybe didn't have the exposures that Billy did, I would say yes. But it's sad. But if you look at Billy's story, it's a very real reality to that. Some kids are forced to grow up too soon. Sometimes they see too much of the world where they can't be a kid. They lost the chance to be just completely a kid. When I say completely be a kid, I mean a kid should not have a care in the world. That's part of the fun of being a kid. We all look back at that time fondly because we made mistakes. We did things positive. We had fun. You were young, so your parents picked you up if you made mistakes and things. In Billy's case, he had to pick himself up, in those sequences because he was, going to foster homes and things like that. We saw a lot of that in his storyline. So he's kind of the one that can kind of get, okay, Batman snapped. Billy made mistakes too. I mean, remember, Billy's path was not clean.
No.
So I think Billy is a unique experience, and I think that's where the comments you're making are so poignant because of the fact that if there's one kid that would give him a pass, I think it would be Billy because Billy hasn't done things the best of ways either. He's had to apologize for a lot. I would love to see what you're alluding to, the talk.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of that, where Batman's kind of just say, listen, dude, I goofed.
Yeah.
I want to see that at some point, that payoff that you're mentioning.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how it's going to come, how and where it's going to come about. And it could be something as simple as you're saying, or he may need to do something longer. I don't know. Or we may see part of the team dynamic within the Justice League is a crazy one. And especially now because we've got other members who aren't getting along. And in a way, I could see Luthor using this to his advantage. Because you think about it, Batman then punched Luthor. So Luthor, he could use that as a thing with the Shazam saying, hey, you and me, we're outsiders. We're together. This is, we are part of the Justice League, but you know what? Within the Justice League, there's always that inner circle, and you and me are part of that inner circle. I could see Luthor using this whole thing to his advantage to strengthen his position within the team.
Right.
So how cool was it to watch Batman punch Luthor, though?
It was great. I was glad to see when they pulled Frankenstein out, too. I mean, that whole sequence, it played out really well. That being the accidental way that Luthor discovered, wait, Frankenstein's actually alive down there. Maybe we should do something about this. It was just really, yeah. The Captain Cold debate, he's sitting here. I agree. We can't pull off a mission into a place like that for one person. We did for Superman. He wasn't dead from what I heard. It's an interesting debate. There's a difference between going over for somebody who's alive and somebody who's dead, even in this world. But Batman's at the end, I was so totally riding along with him. He would be one of those guys where, do you think I did the right thing? Well, your conversation skills need a bit of work. But yeah, I'm with you. We're going over there to get Damian. I get it. You're right. But here's the thing. We're going to make a no-hitting rule.
Yeah, hitting teammates, not a good thing always.
Yeah, we're gonna develop the 10 count. All right, Bruce. 1, 2, 3. Great! I can't wait for Batman and Robin 33. I mean, that's when an issue, already a series that I jump to anyway. When something like this comes out and makes me even more excited for it, that's a home run. And I mean, this is a book I already love and adore. I call it a sleeper hit, and none of that's meant as an insult. It's meant to complement what I think is... I want to be careful to say travesty about this book, because it isn't. What I mean is, I think this book does not get the kind of notice it should get for accolades because of the top quality that's out there. And I think it's one of the problems in comics nowadays is I want to see more accolades for comics in general. Forgetting the Batman book, just in general for comics. I want to see more people bragging about the titles that they really enjoy and love. And it's one of the themes of this show. And if there's anything that I hope in the years that we've done this podcast that we've encouraged people to do more is when an issue like this hits you, whether this hits you the same way as it did us, or it's another title this month that hit you that way, shout it out somewhere. Let people know they should be reading that book. You know, it's I think all of comics are independent now, and that's not insulting independent comics. I don't mean it that way. What I mean is when you take a look at the sales numbers for our top selling comics right now, it trickles down to the rest of the industry in the sense that then that means that you're independent. So everything sells less because people aren't reading comics the way that they used to. I think there's an opportunity with digital and impulse buying to make people aware of these titles that you're enjoying. Don't be afraid to not only post a shout out to the book, but where people can get it. You know, a link to a comic shop, a link to an online purchase for it. Put both. You know, let people know where they can get this book. Let's encourage a couple people. You know, if you get one or two people buying a book that they might enjoy and reading comics that way, it's great to, you know, develop a casual fan. You know, we don't have the casual audience in comics that we used to have, the newsstand crowd. We as fans have the ability through social media to develop that again. And that really can, you know, the spinner rack can be social media sites with impulse purchases. Point people to quality, because then they might on their own become a fan. And not everybody's going to. No. It's just like, you know, I love video games. I'm a PC gamer now just because of time and the fact that, you know, I upgrade the machine regularly for my work and for the podcast and stuff like that. But I can tell people all the great games that I play and enjoy. If they're not interested in gaming, they might try it out and just kind of go, well, that was fun, but I'm not going to invest my time in this. That's okay. On the other hand, there's just as many people who've probably never touched a game before that might go, oh, that's cool. I might get that for my machine. That's the kind of power we have as comic fans to reach out. And I think this is a perfect issue to hand to somebody and say, hey, Batman's going after his kid. Check this out. It's really well done. I thought this was a really well done issue. These type of one-shots should get people excited to read titles. And I'm hoping, I have high hopes for the Green Lantern one that's coming up. Because I would love to see the New Gods become this really exciting force in DC. I think they're doing some really interesting things with them in the New 52. So that crossover for me, I'm excited for. I want to see when that happens. So it's a cool time to be interested in the New Gods, interested in Damian, and I want Damian back. There's no gray area for me now at all. There was that part of me before that'd be like, oh, it'd be cool to have a different Robin or, you know, something else if they did that. And I genuinely felt like I could go either way. I'm not that place anymore. This storyline has me so convinced I want Batman to win.
Yes, I want Batman to win. I want Damian back. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm, you know, thrilled, and just, you know, issue 33 can't come soon enough for me.
Yeah. I like that this is a storyline that we're going to have. I think this is supposed to build until maybe December, I think I heard.
Yeah, I think that's where Alpha is.
Yeah. I don't care what, let me put it this way, I don't care when the ending is. I want to go along for the ride. To me, I have faith in the ride. I don't want to know tomorrow what's going to happen with this. I want to go on the journey. However it's meant to end. However this story is meant to end, I want to be there for the ride. This is really top quality stuff. Our next conversation is going to be on Batgirl 33. Gail Simone is the writer. Fernando Pescerin is on pencils. Jonathan Glapian and Matt Ryan on inks. Blonde on colors, Desi Cienti on letters, Alex Garner on the cover. The Batman 75th Anniversary variant cover is by Cliff Chang and Michael Kaluta. Matt Humphreys is the associate editor, Katie Kubert is the editor, Mark Doyle is the group editor, and Batman, of course, created by Bob Kane. Wow. And apologies for any name butchery that happened there. This was an issue I was really, really looking forward to because of the fact that we would have the first meeting with the New 52 version of our favorite Birds of Prey. I loved it when it was Barbara, Dinah, and Huntress. Although this is a different Huntress than we had because this is Bruce Wayne's daughter. The meeting with... one of the things I really loved about the meeting is the reason why Batgirl's making the assumption that she is... shows just how much stress she's been under with everything that's gone on with Nightfall. This world, a lot of times, we forget that the heroes, the vigilantes, whatever you want to call them or label them or whatever group you want to put them in, the real reality of it is, if you're being attacked by this much and you're trying to juggle a personal life in that, you're going to snap. there's going to be points in time where you're going to have to make apologies. This is a very extreme world. I love Barbara. I think she's probably one of the more rational heroes out there. But even she hits a point where enough's enough. And that's where you need friends. Having her with Dinah there and seeing that this could have gone, it already went bad, but it could have gone horribly wrong if Dinah hadn't been there to bring reality back to the situation, to be the objective observer, to sit there and say, whoa, 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 hold on. She got all this gear and she's not fighting back. That was really a powerful sequence where you see two different places that both of these characters are at. Barbara's too close to this situation with Nightfall. Dinah can be the objective friend who understands what Barbara's going through, but also can see this situation for what it really potentially is. I loved that interesting meeting between them.
Oh, God, yeah. This was, you think about just the stereotypical meeting of two heroes. They automatically always fight and yada, yada. This was, we had that classic hero moment, but we had an explanation as to why it actually occurred. It's not just I don't know who you are, I'm going to punch you. It's the fact that, I love the fact she's IDs her. She's wearing, her color. She's, unknown. I've been attacked multiple sides, multiple different people. Her father's in prison. Her boyfriend had his foot, cut off, and then his hand was chopped off. His brother's hand was chopped off and mailed to him as a message to stop his lawsuit. I love just all these compounding things of one on top of another on top of another. That was the reason why she, the normally very rational Batgirl wasn't herself. And I thought that was just a great explanation going through this. You get these cool fight sequences of just a beat down, then afterwards she's like, oh yeah, sorry about that. And you could see she really was upset by this. She was sorry. She did make the mistake. She realized, yes, Diana's right. I messed up here. And I thought, again, some of the cool stuff that is Barbara is the fact that she has these human moments, but she doesn't quit. She keeps going, and she's able to persevere through this.
One of the things that I really like that Gail Simone's doing, we've seen the announcement that a new creative team's coming on the book and that the tone is going to switch. It's going to be a lighter tone. Barbara's going to start having a little bit more fun than she had previously. Well, in order for us to reach that point, we need closure on these arcs. We don't want to be pulled out of them. And I want the closure on these arcs from Gail Simone. I want her to wrap up these wonderful arcs that she's been delivering us for 33 issues now. In this story, I want to see what this book is going to pay off with. That gets me ready as a reader for the new creative team. It also shows professionalism and class, and I'm excited to see the ending of this story because I've been along for this ride and loving every minute of it. I love Batgirl. Batgirl's one of my favorite titles with DC. This is one of the things when comic companies find ways to work this out with creators where they have an opportunity to end their story. It services the creators. It also services the fans. It makes us loyal. I want this ending from this creative team. I want to see the end game. I want to be a part of it. Otherwise, you're going to really make me angry.
Yeah.
Because I'm invested in this right now. You've got to give me a bridge. And the only way to do that is by giving us a satisfying ending, which we are so going to get with this opening here.
Well, you think about just how much this has been just building. It's been building since day one, but just these recent past couple episodes where we're really getting, okay, this is it. This is the ramp up. This is going to be the final big bad battle. We got the forces of good, the forces of evil, either side, but each side is a little bit skewed. Each side, even our bad guys, in a way, think they're doing what's right. They're, in their own mind, in their own weird, twisted way, think they're doing what's right for Gotham City. Well, it's not, but you know what? In their heads, they actually think they're right. You got Barbara, who is this great hero who's constantly overcoming adversity, constantly dealing with these personal attacks, emotional attacks, physical attacks. She's fighting multiple fights on multiple sides, and she keeps pushing through it just because of who she is and her her personal intestinal fortitude. So, you get this monumental building up of this battle that I'm very excited to see. I will be very also sad to see all this end, and I am very curious, nervous, concerned, scared, all types of emotional spectrum going on. What's going to happen after this? Because there are a lot of great characters in here that I don't want to see go away. That I'm worried. What will their place be in the next version of this universe?
Yeah, it's that part always interests me when we're switching creative teams, because I'm very invested in this world. The way that we wrap up the current version of Batgirl is drastically important to me.
Yeah.
And the acknowledgement of that in moving her forward is really important to me as well. So I'm very curious to see where this book is headed. That being said, I'm very excited to read this story arc.
Okay.
That's drastically important to me. When I pick this up and right from page 1, knowing what I know, it's tough when you know what you know, that this this is going to be the last hurrah of this creative team for right now. That's sad for me. It's bittersweet, if that makes sense. Them having the chance to deliver this kind of arc, though, makes me smile, because there's a relationship that's been developed here, and I need the closure.
Yeah.
And the creative team needs the closure. That's really important when you do these books. And if you don't do this, this is where you anger fans. It's a smart move all around for everybody involved. And I don't know how this was achieved. I'm hoping it was pleasant in how we got to this point, because I'm excited. When she had that Batarang out, Dinah's pulled her off.
Yeah.
And Barbara's reaching for the Batarang. She's like, this tells just how far she's snapped at this point, and really needs a reality check from Dinah. Whoa, look how far you've gone. And I get it, because there's stresses that you're being faced with in this world, and sometimes you need a friend to bring you back to reality and say, don't do something that is going to forever change you. And that's really what this situation's becoming with Barbara. Her dad's locked up, and she's feeling powerless with that. Nightfall has been constantly attacking her. You feel powerless with that. And when I say powerless, it's not diminishing Barbara. Batman feels powerless. We've seen this happen with Batman. Those are realities when you're dealing with even Superman will feel powerless. Look what's going on in his Doomed storyline. When that happens, you hit a point of frustration, and when you acknowledge that to us as the readers, that's where we start connecting with the character. It's not that they hit these points, these deep, dark points right here. It's how do you recover from them? How do you build yourself back up again? And the first thing is with her slowly closing that Batarang and having to suck it up and say, okay, this is awkward. I am a dangerous lunatic? No, sorry. I'm sorry. And if you're reaching for one of those pointy things, there's a point, there's a statute of my limitations here. I love absolutely, she's sitting here saying, I didn't fight back. And you need to understand, I did not fight back. I will if you reach a certain point, though. There's a line for me. She got a pretty strong line. Huntress can take a punch.
She took a massive punch. She took some massive beating there. And I think that, again, it shows the discipline of who Huntress is. Mm-hmm. The fact that she's smart enough to know, okay, I'm jumping in the middle of something here. Let her get her vent out. But had she thrown that Batarang, game changer, because we know Huntress can go. She was trained by the Bat, directly trained by Bat, but not only that, she was trained by Catwoman. She's got that fighting style of, there's a much more, I don't want to say more disciplined fighting, because Barbara is disciplined fighter, but, Huntress does have a more trained approach to multiple years in training, getting ready to become, her Earth's Robin. That was a long process that, you think about the stories they've told in her series, that about how long it took for her just to get on the street, just to start acting, just to be an active part of the team. So she's got a lot more training, a lot more experience than Barbara does. So had that fight been legit, I think Barbara would have been in trouble.
Yeah. I don't know. It would have been
again. Barbara does have that.
Yeah.
Barbara has that unorthodox style to her, but part of the unorthodox, it's because she doesn't have a formal training, a quote unquote formal schooling like a lot of these people do. So you have that. When they talked about when we talked Grayson, they said, he fights like jazz. Well, Barbara also has that fluid dancing style, because Gail Simone's used that in previous issues where she's described, people have described, Barbara's fighting as a dance, as, just a combination. It's not just one martial arts discipline. She's taken stuff from martial arts. She's taken stuff from her dance training. She's taken stuff from this, and she's meshed them into a Batgirl style fighting. So yes, it would have been tough, but I would put my money on Huntress if these two were to legitimately go.
Yeah, it's the debate between the two of them where they're like sitting there and talking about, okay, if you want to join us, I need to know who you are. And she's like, okay, you want to show me yours? I'll show you mine. Yeah. Kind of the reality of Barbara, there's no way Barbara's taking off her mask to this girl. She doesn't trust her enough, right? So Huntress is making a good point. Well, I'm not going to tell you who I am. You're not going to do it either. But Dinah's sitting there, hey, you wailed on her with everything you had, and you couldn't put her down. I, for one, would like to have her standing up for our team. I vote she gets a shot. The debate there between them, Dinah being the peacekeeper. This is a great portrayal of the new 52 Dinah, because with everything that's been going on in Birds of Prey with her husband, we haven't had a chance to see her step up like this in a while. And I'm really glad that Gail got a shot to remind us that this person exists. It's not a knock on Birds of Prey. It's where she was in that story arc, she could not be this person. This was an opportunity where circumstances gave us a chance to see her step up, and I loved every minute of seeing her step up right there.
Yeah, and you think back to the origin stuff they've listed for Dinah when she was in her dojo, when she was with her, with her sensei, learning, learning the martial arts, learning her discipline before her years of being Black Canary, Super Spy, Team 7, any of that stuff, you see this personality, again, coming out, that she was that person who was giving those kids who had a rough life that second chance, giving them a place for discipline, giving them a place where they can be something other than some street punk. And so again, seeing her character, seeing her personality, even Barbara's internal dialogue, about how she gives people a second chance, including me a bunch of times. So I love the fact that there is this acknowledgement. This is who Black Canary has been throughout her time and throughout her history. And I think, again, it's these two know each other. The beginning of the last issue, she's like, I reached out to the one person I knew would come a running, and that's who she, and of course it's Black Canary. Throughout the New 52, we've seen this friendship, we've seen this trust, we've seen these two be, they trust each other, they know each other, and it's, again, when your back's up against the wall, you reach that person is going to have your back, and that's why she's there. And I think this is a really cool introduction to a third musketeer to the group.
One of the great things that this issue gave an opportunity to do with bringing in Huntress as well was just to kind of re-explain Nightfall to everybody. I think that's really important for a creator to remember to do that. It's one of the reasons why I have a lot of faith in the writing of Gail Simone. It's what she's always delivered for me. She understands pacing, and the fact that these are monthly books, they're serialized books, you want to give people a reminder in a way that makes sense, just to kind of the MO and the operating, and what makes Nightfall interesting. She's developed a lot of really interesting and unique villains for Barbara. When they're new like this and they don't have an established history, it's necessary every so often to just give you a little reminder, hey, this is how this person operates. This is why we're basically screwed, this whole bit right here. Every time we take down a cell of Nightfall's, no matter how small, she moves everyone else. No informant ever has anything that isn't obsolete. She calls it the Nomad Protocol. Again, we're not just dealing with the fact that she's able to bring in all of these operatives to go against us. We're dealing with the fact that she is smart. She's got a strategy. She's got a lot of people working with her. This is, she's got multiple cells. She's got multiple operatives. And anytime there's any chance that something can be compromised, everything gets moved. So you can't get any real usable information. That has been a great development of somebody who Barbara's had to use for information from time to time because she's had no other choice. But it also sets up why this particular person is so dangerous. I love that. It's made the character of Nightfall much more compelling over time than in her initial appearances. And that's not a knock on the initial appearances. To me, a good, strong villain becomes more compelling over time. Actually, we talked about like Ra's al Ghul in the last sequence. You know, one of the things that's great about that character is he became more compelling over time because you become more of an enigma when there's some depth to the character. Nightfall is developing more and more depth over time, which happens with an interesting character. I'm hoping that this is a character that continues after this run. I would love to see her appear again at some point, even if not in Batgirl, to see her appear elsewhere, because it's an interesting character concept that's gradually been developed.
Oh, God, yeah. And it's one of those things where at the end of this story arc, we want to see Batgirl win. We want to see Nightfall taken down. Sure. But what level of takedown do you want? Because she's got a lot of power, a lot of money. She's got a lot of influences, and she's got a lot of just... You know, it's like taking down the Court of Owls. You can't just take down one person to take it out. She's got this infrastructure, this support unit that goes beyond just herself and her meta bodyguards. She's got these financial resources. She's got this whole massive network that, you know, and it's funny because there's legitimate businesses tied in with her criminal empire, tied in with everything she does. So if they can't completely cripple her, it's kind of like, you know, some of the stuff with Lex Luthor. You can't really take him out because there's so much out there. There's so much, you know, already established that has nothing to do with anything that Lex has done. But that's part of his strength. That's part of his security blanket. She has that same level of strength and protection. So how do you take her out? You can only, you know, can you only just stop this major plan, put a hurting on her? You know, she's going to regroup and come back later, or what's going to be the end game? That's the thing I'm really excited about, how far they're going to have to go with this.
Yeah. To me, the whole Disgraced storyline has been absolutely great because of the fact that we've seen her have to develop a whole new set of her guard, you know, the top tier, upper echelon people that she works with. That adaptability makes her intriguing to me. When Bane originally came on the scene, Bane had, you know, his 3 thugs that were like his direct guard that worked with him. That type of thing, when you've got those people that they're in the way before you can even get to the main player. But Barbara's gone through people like that when it comes to her before. Came through with the first version of the Disgraced. Now we've got a new Disgraced, and that could continually evolve over time, which is a way to freshen up a character like Nightfall. You keep her as this strategist and all that, but she keeps developing her team. And I like that. It's a really interesting, unique character because of the fact that you can keep adding a player or two into the Disgraced. Apocalypse has that too. You know, this the 4 horsemen change, and all of a sudden you never know who's going to become, like, you know, Death. The Angel of Death was originally Archangel Warren Worthington. We've had Wolverine become Death at one point. There was even a story arc where Psylocke became a version of Death. It's interesting when you start seeing these characters different characters take on the roles of the guard for the main character, for the main villain. It makes it compelling. So I'm curious to see where I'm hoping Nightfall gets used beyond this story arc. I really do, because I think she's interesting.
Yeah, the other person I am wondered what's going to happen is her roommate.
Yeah.
You know, they're doing some great setups with, again, great development of this character, great development of who she is, and just where's it going to go after all this stuff is said and done. And I love the point in time where for a second there, we're all thinking, she figured out that Barbara's Batgirl. She's like, hey, come on, I'm not stupid. I know, I understand. You're spending the nights out. You're coming back all bruised and bumping. You're an undercover cop for your dad. Oh, whew, close one. Yeah, something like that. I was like, oh, man, that is awesome. I completely had me going this whole time. I'm thinking, she's figured it out. She knows that Barbara's Batgirl. I'm like, this is going to be kind of interesting where this goes. And just almost there. Just close. Oh.
Yeah. Those are things that I really, really enjoy is when you get swerved like that.
Yeah.
Barbara's risk of living with people, and I would say this is true of any hero. You live with somebody as a roommate, and you're sneaking out and doing this. Dick Grayson explored this in the Nightwing series recently, where he was living with roommates, and then somebody discovered who he was. Those are dangers. Any time you're living with somebody else and you live this kind of lifestyle, there are going to be things that people are going to notice, that your explanations are not going to add up. Because people are going to start getting curious. We all get curious. Like if you're sitting at a dinner table and somebody sneezes funny, you get curious. I mean, especially if things start to happen more than once. That's just a sneeze. In this particular case, you start noticing bruises and cuts and abrasions and coming home at weird hours and things not adding up between your life story and what these actions are showing about you. That reality is, to me, if you're not exploring that in a comic, you're missing an opportunity. It's where the character becomes just as interesting out of the costume as they are in the costume. To me, that adds the sense of this is a real, living, thriving world. When you sit there and you can talk about, okay, if we just see the character in their costume and how glorious that looks, we want to do that. When we see the other side, we're kind of like, ooh, I'd still love to be that hero and all that, but I don't know that I'd want to be that hero. Maybe I'd want to be this hero because, their life seems to be a little bit better. I like the reality, especially as I've gotten older. That reality, I think, gets really interesting.
Yeah, and it's funny because how much you look at just when we talk about stuff like that, I can also put it towards like just our regular everyday heroes we have with police, law enforcement, with military. Mm-hmm. There is some cool stuff that, you're a firefighter, you're a walking superhero. A lot of people like, oh, look at that, that's a firefighter. Ooh, you get this great, positive image a lot of times with the firefighters. But these are the people who run into a burning building, a building that everybody else is running out of, they're running full steam right into because that's what they got to do. Same thing, with your cops, with your military. There's some great benefits to being a cop. There's some great benefits to being in the military, but you do have that major downside of you're going to come at some point in time in your life, you're going to come up against somebody who's trying to kill you.
Yep.
Who's going to try to end you. And that's the great, negative side to it. Same thing with these heroes. You've got these moments of, ooh, that's Superman. Ooh, that's Batman. No, but that's also the guy who watched his parents get killed. That's also the guy whose entire planet exploded. Oh, and each one of them can never really have a personal relationship. They can never really have someone that they can sit down and say, hey, honey, how was your day? Well, let me tell you, Joker was absolutely nuts again, but only a couple thousand people died this time. Good for me. Yay. There's so much negative that these heroes have to deal with that you kind of miss it. You don't see it if you're just looking for the Flash. And I love the fact that we're getting the Flash, but we're also getting this downside of this.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's one of the interesting things about this particular story is the fact that I think that as comics have gone on and evolved and developed, you start to see more exploration of the world surrounding the hero. A lot of times we talk about like when Marvel came on the scene and we started having Spider-Man and exploring Peter Parker, which is interesting, is exploring Spider-Man. You started to have more of a real world connection. But if you go back to like the Silver Age of DC and you had things like Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen, those were explorations. Superboy started to be more explorations of Smallville as well, where you had Lana Lang and those and the people that were surrounding them. I think there's always been a desire as the stories went on more to get to know the person behind the costume. And I think that's a very natural reaction. And I think the best comics become even better when you round out and flesh out the character. That's where the longevity comes from. Why are we still reading Barbara Gordon after all these years? Because that stuff is compelling. So I really do want to talk about Barbara's apartment and the girlfriend because, the roommate. The great part about that is you have to, as you said, you have to have this deep exploration. You want to talk to her, but that's starting to reveal more and more that you have this connection. And that was the part that Barbara was dreading, I think, in the whole thing. But you have to get that information. That part is the key. This is your only real connection to potentially locking on to Nightfall. You need names. You need somebody that can connect you to Nightfall, and you have to get to this person before the Nomad protocol is kicked in. Because if you don't, you're not going to nab Nightfall. That was the great part about this, being able to use the roommate in a way that this is built through multiple arcs.
Yeah.
And I would be leery to do this with a friend, too, knowing that she'd been through such trauma, but there's no other choice. I liked that this went to then seeing Nightfall train. Nightfall is not just the strategy, not just the intelligence. There is a training segment there that gets us to know more about her inner circle, gets us to know more about this Michael that we're going to see, who's got these toxic powers. Would you like a power set like that? Like, when I was looking at Michael, I'm like sitting here like, that power set to me is a curse.
Yeah, not at all. Any of that, any of the dissolving type of powers, and especially the ones that are kicked on all the time that you can't turn off. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones that I definitely would not want to have. I'm, just one, as I say, he can't shake hands with people. You can't, how do you do basic, simple human interactions if you have issues with contacting people? Now, he does have control over it. It's not always burning, but he could very easily lose control.
That's what I was going to say, yeah. Because it's not always on with him.
No. But it's one of those things where he could very easily... This is something that, he gets angry at somebody. He yells. Because you lose your temper. I could see his powers flaring up by accident. I could see those powers set very easily killing somebody that he cares about. And that's the kind of powers I don't think I'd want.
I really liked what would happen with Huntress and Batgirl during when he starts firing his powers out.
Yes.
Her weapons were for show to get a surrender. We can't risk a concussion or a shattered eardrums or worse. Huntress can use those weapons, but in this case, they had to go in with the strategy, we can't afford that. So even though you can use these things and use them well, we can't right now because we need this guy coherent.
Yeah.
That part was really great. Her using the cape to protect Huntress, I thought was great.
Oh, God,
because you got these two people that were fighting earlier in the issue, and now Batgirl's realizing, wait, this girl's, I goofed, and I need to make this right. You see the building of a relationship right there. When you save somebody's life, that all of a sudden the person starts to go, oh, wait a minute, now we've got some camaraderie here. You see her fighting at the car. Basically, she started attacking this guy so Huntress isn't in danger. But then Huntress shows why she is who she is. She didn't say that she could fly. Can she actually fly? And I love that. When you've got people that don't have superpowers, like we know Huntress doesn't have those powers, but because of the fact that these people do these things with grappling hooks and the ability to manipulate body weight and velocity, which is really what she was doing there, and body armor that you have on, her smashing the guy into the car, the dialogue there, no choice though. Why? Why not? Don't you know? He was messing with my partner. What a great dialogue piece there. I was like hoorahing. Those are great, great moments between two characters that I wanted the payoff of seeing Batgirl, Huntress, and Dinah together in this universe, in this world. And she crafted that, Gail Simone crafted that in a way where it was meaningful to me in a very short period of time, knowing that these are different versions of the character. Like, this is a different Huntress, but yet she had fully embraced that version of the Huntress, because Helena Bertinelli and Helena Wayne, there are differences between them, but there are also certain similarities. And she got the right balance of, this is a fish out of water who still has that skill set. She is Huntress. I mean, come on. That was really, really cool how that was playing off.
Yeah, nice. Again, you get this elegant battle going on, and just out of nowhere, the flying shoulder block pretty much takes the guy down. Sometimes you got to get a little bit dirty, but within that, there was still style. There was still the technique. There was still some really cool, graceful stuff. It's that mixture of, it's that mixture of the bat and the cat that do make Huntress such a cool fighter. Because right there, that's hardcore. That was, again, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't some fancy, judo move. No, that was just a nice, good old running, flying shoulder block, knocking the dude out cold. And again, you get that great wake up moment where, like, you really could use your powers, but I wouldn't if I were you.
Yeah. The witness bit was cool.
Yeah.
As well, recognizing that they especially really had to worry about people witnessing things at that moment, because they needed to be doing this as quietly as possible, because they did not want her alerted, Nightfall, alerted to what was going on until they could get some real information. Michael Drucker is probably the best person they could get, because he would know the plan. He would give them an opportunity to get ahead of the game. But there's also some research that was done there. They knew the fact that this isn't really a bad guy. When you get down to his core, he's doing bad things, he's making bad choices, but deep down inside him, there is a part of him that is motivated by good. If we can reach that and make him recognize how misguided he is, that he's made his allegiances in the wrong places, maybe we can get this guy on a path of at least some redemption by helping us out at this point. I really loved how that played out, because you have to deal with the fact, like you said, he's got this power set where he wakes up and starts using that on us, we're in big trouble. So let's put him in a place where if he uses his powers, he's done.
Great usage of it, because suspended, tied by his hands, he cannot fire up his powers without falling. But again, even you have this going on, you've got the bad guys. They realize, hey, he's taken. Send a squad to get him. And that line just had me thinking, okay, well, it's nice knowing you, Michael, because she doesn't like loose ends. She's not going to just leave you sitting out there to potentially mess with the plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The appealing that because this is a guy who wants to help Gotham. He believes what he's doing is to help Gotham. For him to have to see that, wait, my ally here is willing to take me out instead of rescuing me. She wasn't there to rescue him. They were there to take him out. The birds, and I'm going to call them birds of prey even though they aren't, they had to step up and protect him. They didn't realize till partway through the battle, wait, they're not out to kill us. They're after him. What a great twist. And I love the way that played out, that they weren't expecting that at first. They thought that was a rescue attempt.
Yeah, and again, it was, that within the middle of the fight, just the analysis, the rationale, and just looking at what's going on. But I love that ending bit where, it's Barbara catches him. He's like, I could burn you right now. Then I burn. Hang on. Okay, Batgirl, we got it. And then everybody else came and helped pull them up.
Yep.
I love the fact they're not afraid to take that chance. Again, they know who this guy is. They know he's not really a complete evil, sadistic monster. This is not really a bad guy. He does, in a way, want to help people. He's trying to do what he thinks is the right thing here. So you give him that chance. You show him that we are really the good guys. If you want to be a good guy, you got to be on our team. And it was a great layout where, this right here is why he turned over, why he helped them out, why he was going to give them the assistance. It's not just they simply saved him off the building. It's his people who he thought was his teammates weren't. The people who he thought was his enemy, hey, they're not my enemy. It was that great moments of giving him a chance to actually look and study and figure out what's going on here.
I think when comics are the most interesting, they don't just explore the really good and the really bad. They do explore both of those things because we want to see those things. But they also explore the interesting shades of gray in between. Michael's one of those. Is Michael a bad guy? I don't know that I would call him that. He's a guy who made bad choices, but there's good in him and good intentions. I wouldn't call him a good guy either.
Definitely. Yeah, he's not a good guy yet.
Yeah, but
he's got the potential.
I could see you having a very lengthy debate over where would you place him on that spectrum. and that's very interesting to me when you've got characters that you think these are characters who are intrinsically good. These are characters who are intrinsically bad. The characters that are shades of gray in between, they flesh out and add a real world sense as well. Michael's one of those guys. I really love the exploration of him this issue. This is really a powerful issue for me because her being in that moment where he's like, I could burn you right now. Then I burn, hang on, like you just said. The thing that I really liked about that moment is he had to realize there that this girl is willing to risk herself to save me. This means that much to her. Maybe this is the good that I'm looking for. Maybe these are the people who I should be talking to. Is there a doorway here? A chance for me to do right? Have I been misguided all along? He has to make some split-second decisions there that are very powerful and changing for him. I love that kind of stuff because, that could have gone either way very easily depending on a wrong line, a wrong choice. In that moment where she's holding him, if that dialogue had gone differently, Michael would have been on the cement. Really. Because I take it genuinely, he was willing to go that route as necessary.
Yeah.
She had to be very, very careful. This is earlier on when Dinah was telling Huntress, let her go, she's good at this.
Yeah.
This is her showing that she's good at this. It was great to see this payoff because this is what we want this is a defining moment for Batgirl for those of us as a reader. I love that kind of stuff.
Amen. Amen on that. And again, the wrap up or ending of the issue, again, it shows Barbara is, she calls in for backup. She calls in for, she's recognizing she's outgunned. She's way outnumbered. She needs to get some help here. And so she starts reaching out to all the people that she's connected along the way. They're the people that she's built this rapport with because she is so cool, and she's going to start pulling them into it. And even making a couple deals that, down the line, what's this going to mean for Barbara? What's this going to mean for her status? Where's this going to take it? With her reaching out to her old buddy Mooney, where's that going to leave Barbara? What's this going to do for her?
Yeah, it's and even reaching out to our friend from the movement, I thought that was really cool to see as well. That kind of stuff is, I've got to at this point bring in as many people as possible because we are on a limited time frame. And the last one's going to be a toughie. Hey, it's me. I have a big favor to ask. We're going to need to borrow the boat. And the reason why it's a toughie is the relationship's been very strained for a lot of reasons. And I love how that all pays off in the whole thing. I can't wait to see where this storyline goes.
I know.
I mean, there was a lot of content in one issue that was delivered with a great pace. I mean, I felt like it was a lot of content, but there was also a lot of depth to it. Because a lot of times, you'll see creators shove too much in an issue, and there's missed opportunities to explore things with depth. In this case, there was a lot of content, but a lot of depth to it. That's rich, and I marvel at that when I see that. This is a creative team who really gets it, and it's beautiful. It was a great-looking book. The dialogue was fantastic. I felt like I got to know more about the characters involved, all of them, including Barbara, which, 33 issues in, there's still other pieces of the puzzle to explore. This was really a well-done, great issue.
Now I can get out of here!
Hey, Sean and Jim, this is Jamie Dunst. It's been a while since I last spoke to you. I'm just listening to your review of Grayson 1 and realized that I wanted to call in about that because I really enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was really great, especially feeling a little lukewarm about Nightwing 30. I liked it. I liked what it did for this issue. I wasn't sure about all of the decisions, but overall good. But this issue was amazing. I really liked the way that you see Dick Grayson using his skills as Nightwing and before that Robin, using it as a spy. And I think in a lot of ways it translates well from superhero to spy in regards to what Batman's taught him in terms of master disguise and combat fighting and all that other stuff. But Batman's a stealth guy. So, you learn to sneak around, and I think that's something you get in this issue. And I love the introduction of Helena Bertinelli. I think it's a really cool introduction. I'm really curious to see where this whole dynamic goes between the two of them. I remember hearing something that she's going to be almost like the Batman of spying for Dick Grayson because she's been at this longer than he has. So she's going to be more like the mentor, which I think is an interesting twist as opposed to pre-52. Nightwing was more of the experienced crime fighter. I love the artwork. I thought it was really good. I loved how it looked in the action scenes. I wasn't a huge. I didn't know who Midnighter was until after I read it, maybe like twice. And I like the introduction to him, and I hope he stays around. It sounds like he has some pretty good insight on this spy organization called Spiral. I like the gadgets. I like how Dick Grayson can operate in public, and yet no one knows who he is. And I think it's a really cool introduction to this type of technology, because it's something I love when comics can do something where bringing like an invention or a plot point or a story where it's like, that's really interesting. I wonder why I've never seen that before, or something like that before. And to my knowledge, I've never seen anything like this before, where the tech that they use kind of like blurs their face so they can't be detected by people or technology or anything like that, which I thought was really interesting. And from this first issue, I really got a sense of Alias, the television show with Jennifer Garner. You know, you got Dick Grayson, who's infiltrating this spy organization on the behest of Batman to figure out what they're about. It's the same thing that Sidney Bristow did, going through SD6 at the behest of the CIA, and you have their handlers and everything like that. You know, he has a Spiral handler and a superhero handler in Batman, because he's still talking to Batman every given report. So I'm really interested in seeing where this goes, because I like to, I have a lot of theories in my mind. Like I could see, at some points, Spiral may be going down, but then maybe Dick somehow makes it more for good causes, and it'll be interesting. So really like the issue, and talk to you guys later. Bye.
I liked it too. I liked the Batman connection to it, where, like you said, you can feel the rich history of the character and everything that he was all about. Nightwing 30 to me was a bridging issue, which I really appreciated that they did that, because the idea was, it wasn't this jarring jump to Grayson from the previous series. They really put in a nice bridging piece. Like you said, the payoff was really in Grayson #1, though, where you got to see, okay, this is where he's at now. I love the technology, because to me it's a great reason that you don't have to, because, I don't know, for me, I'm a Dick Grayson fan. I know you are too, Jamie. And I want to see Dick Grayson in there. I don't need him drastically altered physically. I like the idea of him being in a spy outfit. That's really cool. It makes sense. But he still looks like Dick Grayson. And there's something to that is really important to me. So the technology allowing the storyline to still continue, that, he's supposedly dead to everybody. But the fact that this technology hides him. So that even Midnighter acknowledged the fact that I won't remember this, and that was a great tool. It was a good use of Midnighter in that story to have him brought in. I'd be curious to see what other DC characters eventually encounter Dick Grayson. I like that the book has its own corner in the DC universe right now. It's a chance to really flesh out this direction and to build a fan following to the new direction. Again, with a nice bridge to who Nightwing's always been. That's really critically important to me. And it played out in a way that was far beyond. I was expecting great things from the book, but it played out far beyond my expectations. And that's always a nice surprise when a book takes you beyond that. The artwork was really gorgeous, too. You're right. So I'm glad you enjoyed it, and thanks for calling in on that.
Hey, Sean and Jim, it's Jack from Michigan. Just calling to wish y'all congrats on 400 episodes, and I'm glad y'all are on vacation. I hope y'all are enjoying it. And I was also wondering, and this can't come off as weird, but if y'all actually had any of those DC Superhero Journey shoes, and which ones y'all had. I got the classic Batman pair myself, and I'm thinking of getting the new Batman pair I just saw on their website. Thank you very much again, you guys, for a great 400 episodes. Y'all rock. Bye.
Thanks for the well wishes. Actually, yeah, this is the first time in a while where Jim and I both had vacations right around the same time. What ended up happening was my vacation was a week before his 2-week vacation, so we had to do some clever planning as far as making sure we had episode content in place so we could release things pretty close to weekly for all of you to try and keep the show going on a regular basis. So this is one of those episodes that we had recorded prior to vacations. We actually got 2 more that are ready to go as well. So thank you for the well wishes. And as far as the shoes go, I haven't gotten a pair yet, but I've been eyeing them because they have quite a selection of them, and they look really cool. I was thinking for conventions in particular, it'd be great to have a pair. So I haven't made a decision yet, but as far as which ones to get. But you're the first one that I've talked to that's actually had a pair, so it's cool that you're so eager, not only that you like them, but that you're looking to get another pair. So, I'm probably going to wind up getting one. I haven't gotten around to that yet, though. Very cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Hello, Mommy. This is Little Bluebird. I'll call you on your cell. Okay, bye.
Okay, that clearly was a voicemail that wasn't meant for us, but, I think you could see why I just had to air it, because that needed to be shared. I don't know what that was all about, but it was certainly fun.
Hey guys, this is Adrian from UK, a French guy that I've been listening to your podcast for quite some time now, and I just wanted to say that I really enjoy your podcast, guys. You're really great, and I wanted to leave this message for you for the 400th episode, because wow, man, that's a milestone. I bet you never thought that you were going to do that, for so long. So I wanted to thank you for all your great reviews that you ever done, for all the comics. Thanks to you guys. Now I'm buying, comics, which I never thought I would buy, And if it wasn't for you guys, Trees from Warren Ellis, just by listening to you, it just made me love the comics again, because, for some time, you get maybe a little bit tired of it, and just hearing guys, who really love comics, and really want to talk about it, that's just great for me. So yeah, just wanted to say that. So thank you for everything, and happy birthday. Bye.
Yeah, we had no idea when we started this that we would be going a year, much less 8 years later, that we'd still be doing it and hit 400 episodes. And it really is, honestly, it's the great community. It's people such as yourself, who call in, give us encouragement. That means a lot. This is, for us, we both have full-time jobs. This is a hobby of ours. And it means a lot to us. I mean, the time we put in for this, and the community of great friends that we've made through doing this podcast means a lot to us. So thank you for taking the time to call and for the words of encouragement. That really means a lot. And please call in again. I'd love to hear your thoughts on comics that you're digging right now and what's drawing you to them. I am always interested in that. It's the same way that you like to hear our commentary on it. I love when people call in and tell us that they're enjoying books. Because you're right, they go in waves. Sometimes, I'm into this title, and, for the last 5 months, I'll use Green Lantern as an example. Green Lantern book's got a great storyline going on, so I'm very into Green Lantern. But then that shifts cyclically to, then I'm into a heavy Batman story, or I'm into what's going on in Wonder Woman, or Vertigo. There's some great Vertigo titles that I'm reading, and I'm like, I'm kind of in that kind of place right now. That's one of the great things about comics. The diversity of comics means that if you're hitting that lull where certain books aren't hitting you and you're not as interested in the hobby, it's great to make a shift to some other types of titles that might have storytelling that's going to just take you to a different place. Comics are a great medium that way. So thanks for calling in. It was really, really great to hear from you, and hope to hear from you further, Adrian.
Hi, Sean and Jim. This is Scott Lopez. I'm a first-time caller, long-time listener. I just wanted to call and shout out Earth 2. I was a little lagging behind on it for the longest time, and then just recently I was able to catch up, and I just finished reading the latest issue where Val-Zod and Superman, spoiler, there is a huge twist at the end. I'm not going to say anything about it, and I was just totally blown away from it, and I just wanted to call and voice my opinion, and I will talk to you guys later. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
It was funny when James Robinson left the book, just because I love his work and I loved the universe that he crafted there. I was really worried about that title. I have been really, really digging it. And that's hard when somebody establishes a title so richly. It's really hard for a new creative team to come in, a new writing team, I should say, to come in and take over the book and deliver the same quality of content that you were used to before. And that's been happening with Earth 2. It's one of those titles that, because of the amount of books I read, you mentioned how you were getting caught up on it. There are titles that I end up stockpiling just because of time, and this summer I've been gradually going through and getting caught up on some of my old favorites that I just got behind on because of time. And Earth 2 has been one of those that I grab immediately when it comes out. It's a title that I read right away. It's on my short list of, I got to know what's happening in that book. And it's great. And it's one of those titles that I will often, when I'm reading an issue, go back and do a reread of the previous issue just because something happened in that issue where I want to re-experience what led up to it. It's just a really, really great book. Visually, it's always pleasing. The story's rich. The characters are interesting. I'm very worried for them because of where their world seems to be heading, because I'm so invested in it. But I also have a confidence because it's a title that is popular. There's an interest in it. And I think because of that, we're going to see some unique and interesting things coming out of Earth 2. So I'm going to keep enjoying the ride. I like that I care. I like that I'm worried for them, like they're friends. And that always, with any book, whether it's and that's true whether it's a comic or a novel, there's a certain point in time where you hit a relationship with a character or characters that makes you worry for them. And no matter what ends up happening in the story, that emotional investment shows that there's value to the storyline that's being delivered for you. And Earth 2 certainly has that in spades. So thanks for calling in for that. That's always a book that, if you're not reading it, I encourage everyone to pick that up. If you didn't read it from the beginning, grab the trades. It's well worth enjoying the whole journey. It's one of those titles that, yeah, sure, there's some great jumping on points where you could jump out of the title, but with it being a singular book and you don't have to read a ton of titles in order to get caught up with it, I would really encourage you to start from the beginning and read it. It's a much better experience to do it that way. It's one of those titles. It's one of the few titles where I'd say that, actually, because there's a lot of titles where, concerned with budget and time, I usually tell people, hey, just jump on wherever you jump on it, a brand new arc, and just kind of get caught up that way. This is one of those. It's well worth going back to the beginning and reading it. Great book. Thanks for calling, Scott.
A scarlet costume ejects from his ring, and in a blur of motion, police scientist Barry Allen becomes the Flash.
I want to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. We had some great voicemails on this episode, and we love having you a part of the show, so please feel free to use that. We air all voicemails that we get, so if you call in, it will be on the show, and we love having you a part of our podcasts. We also have RagingBullets.com, which is our show website. I keep people up to date on what's going on with the podcast. It's linked to our Twitter account and a Raging Bullets Facebook page. So if you want to follow what's going on with the show on either of those places, you can check out that. We also have a Facebook group, which is separate from our Facebook page, and we share that with DCinfinite.com. It's a wonderful community that's grown so far beyond our show. It's amazing people there that post about everything relating to comics and pop culture that you want to talk about. People linked to their podcasts, their blogs, and things like that as well, so it's a great way to share in what our community is doing. It's just a wonderful, great experience, and I want to thank everyone that participates there because it's gone so far beyond our podcast, and it's great to be able to share that with DCinfinite.com. We are also on Google+, and Jim and I both have personal Facebook pages. I have a personal Google+ page. Feel free to add us on any of those places. I love posting, particularly from my personal Facebook account. That's really what I usually do when I log on. I use the show account as a utility account to do show news, but if you're looking for me posting and conversation with me, feel free to add me on my personal account. Social media has been so great for comic fans. It's a great chance for us to interact and talk about the things that we like and enjoy. So please feel free to add us on any of those services that apply to you. But our website certainly is the first stop on finding out what's going on with the podcast. That's RagingBullets.com. Sponsoring us this episode, once again, is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. This month, check out that 65% off special on Batgirl 35 and Deathstroke #1. Each of those is $1 for a piece. That's an amazing discount from DCBService.com. Over at InStockTrades.com, be sure to check out their moving sale. They're moving to a brand new location, and because of that, they're offering extra discounts on top of their already low prices on a variety of different publishers. So head on over there and see if you can take advantage of them clearing out some of their inventory for the big move. It looks like that sale's ending around August 18th, so jump over there now and check and see if there's some deals for you. And remember, orders of $50 or more give you free shipping, so on top of the great discounts, you can actually get a lot of this for free if you bundle everything together and do one big shipment. So thank you, InStockTrades.com and DCVService.com for continuing to support our show. Our next episode is going to be the second part of our look at quote-unquote bad DC cinema. And we're going to be taking a look at the movie Batman and Robin with friend of the show, Art Lyon. We actually already have that recorded, and we're going to be delivering that to you for our next episode. So we will see you then.
Bye!
On November 13th, Sean Whalen was asked to stop constantly talking about comic books. That request came from his wife. Deep down, he knew she was right, but he also knew that someday he would find someone that would talk to him. With nowhere else to go, he appeared at the home of his childhood friend, Jim Segulin. Sometime earlier, Segulin's boss had requested that he shut up about his comic books and never speak of them again. Can two grown men put out a DC Comics podcast without driving each other crazy? It's Raging Bullets, the DC Comics fan podcast. With Sean Whalen as Dr. Norge, and Jim Segulin as the Sensei of the Whatnot and the Duke of You Know. It's a spoiler podcast, so they will go in depth into the plot line, story twists, and whatnot of the comics they are reviewing. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you may better enjoy the show.